Hey everyone, how's it going? In this video, I want to take a look at how we can create a song that sounds like something that would have come off Deftones' White Pony. I first heard Around the Fur by Deftones, then went back and checked out their previous stuff like Adrenaline, but for me, when White Pony came out, that really hit me. What really got me is the contrasts of sounds that they put into this album. You've got some really banger, heavy tracks on there, all the way through to really soft stuff, and combining that all together really gives White Pony its sound. So in this video, we're going to see how we can create a sound that sounds like a song that would have come off White Pony. Starting off, let's jump into the guitars. I'm going to be using my PRS Mic Shock. This is tuned down to drop C. That is the tuning that they used on White Pony. And then for the amp tones, I'm using STL Tones Amp Hub, because what they've got in there is they've got an amp modeling of the Marshall JMP1. So that is the preamp that Stef used on Around the Fur and White Pony. So I've dialed in these settings over here, and then it's also going into some IRs of a Marshall cabinet. Now, I have done a How to Sound Like Deftones video where I create a sort of Deftones guitar tone. So I will link to that video over there. So go check that out if you want a more in-depth view at how to get that sound. But let me just play the sound for you so you can hear what it sounds like. And this is what we got. So that is Amp Hub with that amp model. And then what I've done is I've just added some post EQ. So I've cut out some of the lows, done a dip at about 430 Hertz, and then a little jump up in the higher frequencies. Now let's talk about the sort of playing style and chord voicings that Stef uses. So a chord that he really uses is you playing the open C, and then he plays an octave on the 8th fret on the 5th string. So you've got the 8th fret over there, you skip the next string, and then you're fretting the 10th fret on the 3rd string. So what we got there is an F with a lower C, and it creates a sort of nice dissonant sound. He also incorporates a little bit of bends into his playing. Another chord shape that he likes to use is a minor chord shape in this drop C. So for example, if I'm playing on the 7th fret, I'll just bar a power chord over here. And then on the 4th string, on the 10th fret, I'll add that in, giving the minor tone to it. You can hear this a lot in Digital Bath. And then also another thing is doing a power chord and then adding in the sus2. So that's the 8th fret on the 6th string, 8th fret on the 5th string, and then the 10th fret on the 4th string and the 3rd string. So I've got a chord progression that I want to use that uses these shapes and the technique of a little bit of bending in there, and it sounds like this. So that's the main idea. Let me just play a snippet over here so you can hear what it sounds like. And for a sort of contrasting idea, let's come up with a sort of intro verse idea. Now, what Stef likes to do is sort of play higher up sort of octave notes. So I'm going to sort of play with that idea that's on the 10th fret there, and I'm just going to move my pinky up and down on the 13th fret. So that's an intro idea that I want to use, but it's also going to be the verse idea for the song. So that verse section over there, you can also hear some bass that I've added in. So I wanted to add in a bass style that was similar to how Chi played on White Pony. So over here on the bass, I've got an instance of neural dark glass that's giving me the tone. With this, it's a sort of blend of a clean tone and some saturated tone. So that is the bass tone that I've dialed in. with a bit of post EQ. Basically what I'm doing is just cutting out some of the lows and adding in some compression. So for that bass riff, I'm playing a riff that sort of plays this rolling line over those drums and the high guitars. Let's hear it in isolation with the drums. Now let's talk about the drums. Now with Abe, a very characteristic style that he uses on his drummings is this sort of fast snare roll. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the programmed drums that I've programmed in just for this main riff idea here so you can hear what I mean. So I'm just going to unsolo those, make sure the drums are soloed, bring them up so that I can see the MIDI and you'll see what I mean. So take a listen over here to these snare parts over here. So you've got quite a straight rock beat over there, but by adding in those fast drum fills right just before it goes into the next bar, really adds that sort of characteristic of Abe's drumming style. And then for that intro section and the verse, I want to layer up a sort of eerie atmospheric pad that goes over the guitars and drums. So I've got this pad sound over here. So I'm using the Vital virtual instrument synth over here to give me that pad sound. I'm using this preset Abe-style and it sounds like this. So what you got here is 3 different oscillators that are using different waveforms, plus some modulation on the filters. And that's giving us that sort of eerie pad sound. So taking a listen now to that intro section now with that pad added in. I'm also going to tackle some vocal ideas for the song. Now, I'm not going to say that I can sound like Chino. Chino has a very distinctive voice, and it's actually quite hard to pull off the inflections that he does. It's natural to him, but it's actually quite hard to do if you're not used to it. But I want to give you some ideas on how you can do it using effects and what type of techniques that you can use. So over here, I've got my verse idea. I'm just going to solo the vocals so you can hear them, and then I'll talk a bit more about it. I belong right here for now. So if I just go into this track over here, I'm just going to play it back without the effects. I belong right here. Okay, so what Chino does is he sort of uses this very breathy whisper sound where he comes very close into the mic and does that like, So he's using that sort of whispery technique and then combines it with normal voice. And then you can add quite a bit of processing on to get it to sound like sort of atmospheric, get that voice sounding atmospheric in the mix. So over here, I've added in some analog sort of EQs and compressors just to fine tune that vocal. I'm using Slate Digital with their effects over here, just dialed in these settings from the classic Opto Vocal patch or preset over here. Then I've added in some extra EQ. I'm not going to go too deep into these settings. I just want to show you the chain that I used. So I'm using some SSL style EQ as well. I've got a de-esser, a slight bit of saturation using the SPL twin tube. But the real cool effect that I like using is actually this free effect here, which is HZ multiply. And what it does is it creates a sort of chorusing widening effect on the vocal. So if you just take a listen without this, I'll just add in my limiter and extra EQ over here just to add that in. But let's just play it back. I belong right here. And then now with a sort of widening sound. I belong right here. So it just gives a really nice sort of widening effect to that vocal, and then that sort of chorusing effect that can add in some split delay signals on the left and right, giving that sort of wide chorusy sound. Actually, it probably is considered a unison sound. Also, I want to talk about the pitches and notes that Chino uses. He tends to sort of drift off the key of the song, and that gives him his sort of characteristic tone. So I'm going to, let's say, add the guitars in and the bass, and listen to this vocal.
Right here,
Over here.
for now.
So you've got those sort of notes that sort of create some dissonance when he moves off the sort of scale of the chord progression that we're using. So those are some key things that you can use when you're trying to emulate Chino's vocals. I'm not saying that I've done it, but I'm just trying to use some of those techniques that he uses to give a vocal idea for the song. Now let's check out some other things. So I've also gone in to a chorus section over here. And this chorus melody I actually used from one of my songs where I was actually trying to sound like Deftones. I'll leave a link over here. It's a Bandcamp song that I've got, but this idea sort of actually just fits it over this chorus idea as well. So I just wanted to use that as well. What I've got is a main chorus vocal and then some harmonies. I'm just going to solo them and play them all together, and then you can hear it with the rest of the tracks as well.
You were sad, you were lonely, you were mine.
So as you can hear, there's those sort of breathy moments where you're close on the mark there, and those extra harmonies just filling out the sound. So hearing that within the context of this whole chorus section over here sounds like this.
You were sad, you were lonely.
So to finish off, I want to add a sort of outro bridge section. And another technique that Stef uses a lot on his guitar playing is the use of harmonics in heavy sections. So it sort of plays back to the bridge section in Be Quiet and Drive that's on Around the Fur. But I thought that would be quite a nice idea to sort of incorporate into the style as well. So you've got something like this. So you've just got those harmonics there, adding some extra sort of dissonance to the sound, and it really works well and ties in with other types of stuff that he does on White Pony. And also what I wanted to do with the vocals on this outro bridge section is just add some very chaotic, random screaming. So I just added this rambling sort of non-verbal stuff with some screams over here. It doesn't sound that great by itself, but when you start adding a whole bunch of effects and layer it in the mix, it just adds that extra layer that's quite nice. So over here is the vocal without any effects on it. Actually sounds pretty terrible, but I've added in a delay, some compression, some saturation, and a heavy dose of reverb and delay sends, and you got something like this. And now let's add that in with that guitar idea that I showed you earlier, and this is going to be the outro section of the song. So there you go, that is my take on creating a song that would fit on White Pony by Deftones. As you can see, we went through the guitar tone, guitar techniques and riffs that would be used in that style, the bass playing, and then also some vocals where I tried to emulate Chino. I did my best, but I know I didn't come close. But you can hear those sort of inflections that he uses in his vocal style. Now let me give you a playthrough through the full song so you can hear the whole idea within the context of a whole mix. So that's it for this video. I hope you have a much better understanding now on how you can write something that sounds like deftones, in particular something that would sit on White Pony. And if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel or if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and also don't forget to click on that notification bell to be notified of future videos. I'll catch you in the next one.